Tailor your responses to the company or organization that you are interviewing for, but always keep your answers related to professional or school experience. Never use a personal example, and avoid personal opinions. Remember, the answers to these questions are about your future employer, not you. Whatever you do, do not assign blame. The interviewer wants to know about you and how you've dealt with challenging situations, not the person that you feel is to blame. Also, try to keep your responses to no more than 3 minutes.
Give me an example of a time when you faced a challenge and tell me how you dealt with it.
Okay. Well, I was working at this accounting firm one time, and there was a discrepancy between accounts, and the supervisor, my supervisor, made a big deal out of it. It really wasn't that big of a deal at all. It wasn't my fault. She just had a couple of kids, and she just got back on the job. I think that she was trying to make a big deal and make a point by blowing it way out of proportion. So basically, I had to go back and look at the accounts all over again, and it came down to a problem in labeling. Somebody else did it. I didn't even do it. Like I said, it wasn't my fault. I fixed it, and basically it just took a long time to do something really simple.
Well, I was working in an accounting firm, and there was a discrepancy between accounts. My supervisor was disturbed by the problem, so I volunteered to tabulate the accounts again by hand. The problem was as simple as someone had mislabeled a spreadsheet. But I went through the accounts one more time just to make sure it was as simple as that. It's a good learning experience for me, how a small problem can derail a whole process. The client reported to my manager that she was really impressed how thoroughly the problem was handled.
Sandy's rules also include: don't be overbearing or over-aggressive. Stay away from a know-it-all complex. Being indecisive comes through. Don't play the blame game with past employers. It makes you look really bad. And remember, an interview is really just a conversation between 2 or more people.
Illegal questions can happen to anyone, so try to familiarize yourself with the legal questions that you might be asked before you even get into the interview situation. That way you'll be more ready to respond. You do not need to disclose things that may happen, such as needing time off for doctor's appointments or planning on having children. If the question is illegal and offensive to you, know that you have the right to end the interview at that time and ask to speak to your interviewer's manager.
Are you a United States citizen?
You know, that's an illegal question. By law, you can't even ask me that. Gosh, you should know that.
I'm legally able to work in the United States for a year, and then I'll need sponsorship.
Do you have any children?
Well, yes, as I said earlier, I do have one son. He's 19, he's a college student, and boy, has he kept me on my toes. He is and has been quite a handful for his whole 19 years.
I do have children, but I have a really great support network that pitches in and helps me out. I've never had a problem being early or staying late. On the occasions that I do have to work weekends, I have a really great team of people to help me out.
Now going back to Sandy's rules. Know which questions are illegal. Always be tactful, always be courteous.
When interviewers ask behavioral questions, they want to know if you can think on your feet, and therefore these questions do relate to job performance. These questions are ones that you usually cannot prepare for, so feel free to take a moment and think about your answer. Don't be afraid to be creative or humorous when answering these types of questions.
I have somewhat of an unusual question for you. How would you weigh an airplane without a scale?
Excuse me? How would you weigh an airplane without a scale? That's a really strange question. What does that have to do with anything? I have no clue.
That's an interesting question. I think there's probably several ways to do it. One way would be to measure the thrust output of the engines, and then to see how much thrust is required to move the airplane, and you'd probably be able to get a real rough estimate that way.
Remember Sandy's rules. It's okay to take a second if a question throws you, and you can ask to come back to it if needed. Keep in mind, the interviewer is evaluating your critical thinking skills, and it doesn't really matter if the answer is wrong.
Try to think of general conversation topics to talk about with receptionists, greeters, and the interviewer. An interview is really a dialogue between 2 people, and you're interviewing the company just like they are interviewing you. so be sure to have questions prepared for your interviewer that emphasize your interest in the company. These questions should stay away from hours, salary, benefits, and vacation time. These questions are more appropriate for a second or third interview, or at the time that you are offered the job.
Do you have any questions for us?
Gosh, I don't know. Yeah, I can think of one. What am I going to get paid? Or better yet, when can I take my first vacation day?
Well, I recently read that your company won a government bid to produce your product. How does the company plan to handle that increased workload?
Here are the last of Sandy's rules. Always, always have questions. Asking questions shows you've done your homework on the company. Sending a thank you letter after the interview will help you stand out from the crowd.
We at UMKC Career Services thank you for your time and wish you all the best in your future pursuits.